Hey Foxpack, fluff those tails and calibrate your VR rigs. Today we're stepping into a world that blends mythology, puzzles, and first-person exploration in virtual reality. The game we're digging into is The Tale of Onogoro, a title that's less about pew-pew shooters and more about curious brains, steady hands, and a willingness to solve mysteries while fully immersed. If you thought VR was all about waving swords and blasting aliens, this one's here to remind you there's another side of the headset, calm, thoughtful, and cleverly designed. Let's start with the basics. The Tale of Onogoro is a VR adventure puzzle experience developed by YOM Realities, a studio focused on virtual reality games that combine narrative with environmental puzzles. This title is available on Meta Quest 2 of 3, Oculus, and PC VR platforms that support Steam VR and OpenX, meaning you can play it with headsets like Valve Index, HTC Vive, and others connected to a VR-ready PC. In terms of price, The Tale of Onogoro typically sits around $24.99 on digital storefronts, though sales and discounts are common, particularly during seasonal promotions. Considering this sits in that mid-tier VR pricing bracket, it's not an impulse buy, but it's also not a big AAA price tag. It's positioned where many indie or experience-driven VR titles land. So what is the game? At its core, The Tale of Onogoro is a VR adventure with environmental puzzles, inspired by Japanese mythology. The title refers to Onogoro, which in Shinto myth is the island where the gods first landed to create the Japanese archipelago. The experience loosely draws on that mythological context, not as rigid lecture material, but as a thematic foundation for exploration, narrative tone, and world design. That means you're not just moving through random puzzles thrown at you with no context. The world has a sense of place, atmosphere, and story. It invites you to wander, observe, and interact with your surroundings in a way that feels like stepping into a myth that you're unraveling piece by piece. Gameplay in The Tale of Onogoro is centered around your VR movement and interaction. You physically reach, grab, turn, rotate, and place objects. You interact with mechanisms, clues, and environments built to take advantage of VR's immersive spatial understanding. It's the kind of game where bending down to look at a carved symbol or turning a statue's head by hand is part of the puzzle flow. The puzzles are physical in nature, meaning that how you move your hands, orient pieces, and explore spatial relationships matters far more than button mashing or reflexes. This places the game firmly in the experience category of VR. More about thoughtful engagement, presence, and observation than stress race timers or high-octane action. The world design is evocative. You're placed in settings that feel meaningful and deliberate. Tranquil shrine environments, open natural spaces, stone carvings, architectural elements that suggest purpose and history. The puzzles integrate with these spaces rather than sitting on top of them. That coherence makes your surroundings, not just abstract puzzle props, feel like part of the mystery you're solving. Movement is handled in a way that supports immersion rather than disorientation. You can teleport or smooth move depending on your comfort preferences. A detail that matters in VR because motion sickness is a very real party crasher if not addressed. The developers have built-in options that let you tailor the experience to your comfort level. That's not always a headline feature, but in VR it's hugely appreciated. The puzzles themselves vary. Some are observational challenges. You need to notice patterns, symbols, or relationships hidden in your environment. Others are mechanical, using levers, rotating pieces, or physically assembling segments in three-dimensional space. Because this is VR, each puzzle carries that satisfying aha moment not just in your brain but in your body. You twist something with your own hand, align a piece with your own effort, and suddenly something clicks. It's one of those joys of VR that doesn't translate as well on a flat screen, the sense that you did something with your own virtual body. Sound and music play supporting roles without overwhelming. Ambient sounds help place you in each environment, whether it's wind in the trees, the ripple of water, or the quiet hum of sacred stone. Music tends to be subtle, mood-setting rather than intrusive. Exactly the kind of audio choice that lets you focus on the puzzles rather than being yanked around by dramatic cues. Now let's talk about pacing because this matters a lot in a VR experience like this. The Tale of Onogoro does not rush you. It expects you to stop, look around, crouch, reach up, turn your head, or step physically closer or farther to see what you need to see. That kind of pacing won't appeal to everyone. If you like constant motion and high-energy sequences, this might feel slow. But if you enjoy methodical exploration where your senses and thought combine, you'll feel at home. Solving puzzles here involves a mix of logic and experimentation. You might find a series of hints scattered in the environment that need to be pieced together. You might have to interpret meaning from a statue's orientation, match symbols across surfaces, or align objects in 3 dimensions to create a trigger event. One of the strengths of the game design is that it doesn't just throw random puzzle mechanics at you. Each puzzle feels integrated with the environment and the thematic world. There's a sense of narrative too, not heavy cutscenes or dialogue, but a storytelling style that emerges from objects, inscriptions, visuals, and the unfolding of the world as you play. You don't get handed a book of lore, you discover it. That makes the experience feel personal, quiet, and reflective rather than forceful or guided by text dumps. Let's talk about accessibility and audience because VR is a special medium. This isn't a beginner's primers for VR title. It assumes you're comfortable with using motion controls, grabbing, rotating, and placing objects. If you're new to VR, there's a learning curve, but the game's lack of frenetic action means plenty of space to learn at your own pace. For seasoned VR players, it's a pleasant, thoughtful experience rather than a workout or an endurance test. The flip side is that if you're someone who prefers action, reflex challenges, or narrative drama like you find in story shooters, this might not be your cup of green tea. The tale of Onogoro values serenity, observation, and presence. It's more akin to walking through a virtual shrine with puzzles hidden in every corner than running around blasting targets. One of the standout qualities of the game is how puzzles build on one another. Early on, interactions might feel simple. Rotate a compass, match a symbol, but as you progress, the game layers mechanics in interesting ways. You might find yourself combining observations from disparate areas of a map or using physical space in clever ways. For a VR puzzle fan, that layering feels rewarding. There's also something to be said about immersion here. When you're crouched down examining a carving or reaching up to pull a lever with your own hand motion, it elevates the mental puzzle into a bodily experience. That's where VR shines, when the physical act of understanding becomes part of the solution. That said, there are a few places where the experience feels more introspective than energetic. If you're craving persistent gameplay loops, combat challenges, or deep branching narratives, this experience will feel distinctly experiential rather than action-packed. But that's by design. And if you embrace that design intention, you get a rich, layered experience instead of distraction. Another strength of the game is that it doesn't overwhelm you with tutorials. Instead, it lets you learn by doing. You might not understand the purpose of an object at first glance, but as you interact and experiment, a pattern emerges. That's a design philosophy that respects the player's curiosity and intelligence. Because this review is grounded in fact, let's reiterate the confirmed platforms. MetaQuest 2 of 3 in PC VR, Steam VR/OpenXR. Meaning headsets like the Valve Index, HTC Vive, and any PC-linked headset that supports those standards. The price nestles comfortably in the mid-tier range for VR experiences. Not budget, not AAA blockbuster. Making it accessible for players who enjoy unique VR titles and want something that feels like an exploration, not a sprint. So how do all these pieces come together? The Tale of Onogoro is a VR experience for players who appreciate discovery, environmental storytelling, and spatial puzzle mechanics that take full advantage of the medium. It doesn't chase you with timers or throw endless enemies at you. Instead, it invites you to slow down, look around, and let your VR presence become part of the solution. It reminds me of those web of light moments where you reach for something, and not just click it, but understand it, and that combination of thought and motion is where VR really shines. Now for the Fox final verdict, scored on the Paws scale. I'm giving the Tale of Onogoro 8 Paws out of 10. It earns high marks for thoughtful puzzle integration in VR space, strong atmosphere and world coherence, natural, immersive physical interaction, accessible pacing and exploration focus. It holds back from perfect only because it's very thematic and slow burn, which will be a strength for many players but a mismatch for those seeking action or fast progression. So, Fox Pack, if you like your VR with a side of serene mystery, mythic influence, and clever puzzles that make you think with your body as much as your brain, this one is worth a spot in your headset library. That wraps up this review. If you enjoyed it, tap that like with your foxy paw, hit subscribe to join the den, and tell me, if you had to solve a VR puzzle first thing in the morning, what would you want it to be about? I'll catch you in the next one.